The aging Confederation patrol ship Eternal Grace drifted through the silence of deep space, its sensor arrays sweeping methodically through the darkness. Captain Frixol stood on the observation deck, his elongated form silhouetted against the panoramic viewport. 6 spindly limbs supported his fragile body, evolutionary adaptations to the low-gravity gardens of his homeworld Lyria, where even a mild breeze could lift one off the ground. "Captain," called Communications Officer Zeltiri, her voice trembling slightly. "We're receiving a distress signal from the Xyrillian colony on Elysium Mine." Frixol glided across the deck, movements fluid in the artificial gravity his species found uncomfortably heavy. On screen, the holographic display flickered to life, revealing scenes of horror. The crystalline spires of Elysium Mine's capital city, once celebrated throughout the Confederation for their acoustic properties that transformed solar radiation into harmonic symphonies, lay shattered. In their place swarmed biomechanical constructs, methodically harvesting resources and colonists alike. "Void swarm," whispered Science Officer Meltora, her photosensitive skin paling to a sickly yellow. "Pattern matches their known behavior precisely." The bridge fell silent as footage showed Xyrillian civilians, peaceful philosophers whose species had never developed weapons beyond ceremonial implements, being systematically rounded up by segmented machines with too many limbs and too few mercies. "Estimated casualty rate?" Frixol asked, mandibles clicking nervously. "If consistent with previous void swarm harvests, 63% of the population already processed," Meltora replied clinically, though her skin now displayed stress patterns visible only to her own kind. "Remaining population will be exhausted within 2 standard cycles." Frixol activated the ship's quantum communicator, establishing direct contact with Confederation High Command. The face that appeared belonged to Under-Coordinator Plex, a bureaucrat whose species evolved from high-dwelling filter feeders. "Under-Coordinator, the Xyrillian colony on Elysium Mine is under void swarm attack. We request immediate military intervention." Plex's compound eyes shifted subtly. "Emergency response protocols have been initiated. Relief fleet estimated arrival in 43 standard cycles. Maintain observation distance. Direct intervention prohibited." 43 cycles. First Officer Valen hissed. "The colony will be dust by then." "Protocol is clear," Plex continued, unperturbed. "The Eternal Grace is a diplomatic vessel, not equipped for combat operations. Quarantine protocols are being established for the sector. You will withdraw to safe distance and continue monitoring." The transmission ended before Frixol could protest further. Silence engulfed the bridge until a final transmission broke through from the surface. A young Xyrillian, barely past adolescence, huddled amid ruins. Its crystalline appendages were fractured, voice modulator damage. "Please," it said in imperfect galactic standard. "Anyone. Help us." The transmission cut to static. "Orders, Captain," Valen asked quietly. Frixol's inner eyelids closed momentarily, a gesture of deep contemplation among his species. When they reopened, something had hardened in their amber depths. "Modify our transmitter array. Redirect the Xyrillian distress signal towards Sector 9Z3. Navigation Officer Corliss' tentacles rippled in alarm. "Captain, that's the quarantine zone. The Deathworlder territory." "Earth space," Frixol confirmed. "The humans." Valen's exoskeleton clicked in agitation. "They're barely a decade into contact protocols. The Confederation classified them as a containment priority. Those creatures evolved on a toxic death world with twice standard gravity. Their biochemistry practically runs on combat stimulants." "And now," said Frixol, watching as the signal beamed toward a distant blue-green world the Confederation feared more than the void swarm itself, "we will see if monsters can be heroes." Admiral Helena Vega's morning strategy session aboard the UED Indomitable was interrupted when Lieutenant Park burst through the doors, security protocols overridden by emergency authorization codes. "Admiral, we've intercepted a distress signal." Confederation origin. The gathered officers, veterans of the Mars insurrection and the Europa Deep campaign, straightened in their seats. Relations with the Galactic Confederation had been minimal since first contact a decade ago. The aliens had approached humanity with scientific curiosity and diplomatic caution that barely masked their underlying fear. On screen, Vega ordered, her cybernetically enhanced eyes narrowing. A holographic display activated, showing the destruction of Elysium-9's crystalline cities and the systematic harvesting of its inhabitants. The footage ended with a young alien's plea for help, its voice distorted by damaged vocal apparatus. Signal authenticity, Vega asked. Confirmed, Admiral, replied Intelligence Officer Commander Ramirez. Originated from Confederation vessel Eternal Grace. Target planet houses approximately 3 million Xyrillian colonists. Aggressor identified as Void Swarm, a Class 5 Cenocidal collective. Confederation response. According to intercepted communications, relief fleet estimated arrival in 43 standard cycles, approximately 51 Earth days. Colonel Wai Chen, commander of the 103rd Marine Division, sneered. By then, there will be nothing left to save. Vega studied the tactical projection showing the Indomitable's battle group, 5 heavy cruisers, 12 destroyers, and their complement of support vessels, currently patrolling the outer colonies. Then she examined the coordinates of Elysium-9. Travel time at maximum burn. 3 days, 4 hours to reach Xyrillian space, answered Navigation Officer Hernandez. Vega's expression remained impassive, but her titanium-reinforced fingers tapped a complex rhythm on the conference table. A telvos who served under her recognized as decision-making. We have no formal obligations to the Confederation, Fleet Admiral Okafor reminded her from the head of the table. They've kept us at arm's length since first contact. Made it clear our aggressive biology wasn't welcome in their peaceful community. True, said Vega. And yet, the room fell silent. Every officer present understood the unspoken calculation. Humanity had spent centuries fighting each other before reaching the stars. In the decades since discovering they weren't alone in the universe, the question that haunted military planning sessions was always the same. Would we be the conquerors or the conquered when the inevitable conflict came? Now, a different possibility presented itself. Fleet Admiral Okafor nodded once. Put it to a vote. The Joint Chiefs entered their decisions into secure terminals. The result was unanimous. Commander Ramirez, alert all ships in the battle group to prepare for immediate departure, Vega ordered. Colonel Chen, prepare your Marines for ground engagement against unknown hostile biology. Lieutenant Commander Jackson, your Swift Justice will deploy ahead of the main fleet. I want boots on Elysium-9 in 48 hours. Lieutenant Commander Jackson, a compact, scared veteran whose Special Forces team specialized in hostile environment operations, saluted sharply. Rules of engagement, Admiral. The Void Swarm is harvesting civilians. You are authorized to employ any means necessary to protect the remaining Xyrillians. As the briefing room emptied, weapons officers throughout the fleet received authorization to prepare munitions that would make Confederation diplomats faint. Antimatter warheads, neutron cascades, and Raven autonomous combat drones. In the shipyard, the destroyer Swift Justice detached from its berth, engine signature flaring, as it accelerated to speeds Confederation engineers had deemed theoretically impossible for ships of its mass. Aboard the Indomitable, Admiral Vega recorded a brief message for United Earth diplomatic channels. Fleet responding to humanitarian crisis in Confederation space. First contact with hostile non-Confederation entity designated Void Swarm. We will demonstrate that humanity can be more than the monsters they fear us to be. As she ended the recording, Vega's lips curved in the barest suggestion of a smile. And if necessary, we will show them exactly why they feared us in the first place. The Swift Justice dropped out of FTL at the edge of the Elysium system, hull still radiating the quantum distortion of a ship that had pushed its engines beyond recommended tolerances. Fold stealth protocols, Lieutenant Commander Jackson ordered. Passive scans only. On the tactical display, Elysium-9 appeared as a jewel being slowly consumed by darkness. Hundreds of biomechanical constructs swarmed the planet, systematically dismantling cities and processing resources. In orbit, larger void-swarm vessels resembling segmented arthropods hovered like patient predators. Life signs? Jackson asked. Concentrated in the southern continent, replied Sensor Officer Rivera. Approximately 800,000 Ceruleans remaining. Void swarm converging on their position from 3 vectors. Transmission from the surface, Communications Officer Patel announced. It's singing. Through the bridge speakers came an ethereal melody, the collective mourning of a species watching its extinction approach. No more, Jackson said quietly. Then, louder, battle stations. The swift Justice powered its weapons systems, technology that had made Confederation observers blanch during diplomatic exchanges, and accelerated toward the largest concentration of void swarm ships. They haven't detected us, Tactical Officer Zhao reported. We have complete surprise. Not for long, Jackson replied. Dr. Linden, prepare your team for immediate groundside deployment. Target: the largest remaining Cerulean settlement. Priority is establishing defensive perimeter and initiating evacuation protocols. Dr. Mira Linden, shinobiologist and commander of the ship's Special Forces unit, nodded sharply. Her team, 12 operators augmented with military-grade biotech, were already loading into drop pods. Strike Package Alpha, Jackson commanded. Execute. The swift Justice erupted from stealth mode, quantum beam weapons slicing through 3 void swarm vessels before they could react. As the alien swarm reconfigured to address this unexpected threat, drop pods launched toward the surface, their heat signatures masked by the destroyer's weapons discharge. On the southern continent, the remaining Ceruleans huddled in their last stronghold, a temple complex whose crystal architecture amplified their telepathic communion. Elder Kirazana led the death song, preparing their collective consciousness for final dissolution, when the sky cracked open. Metal pods impacted around the temple perimeter, disgorging bipedal figures in midnight black armor. The Ceruleans watched in disbelief as these creatures, impossibly fast and unnaturally strong, established a defensive formation with methodical precision. Dr. Linden approached the temple entrance, removing her helmet to reveal a face the Ceruleans recognized from limited Confederation briefings. Human. A Deathworlder. The evolutionary impossibility from a planet that should have killed them. High gravity, extreme temperature variations, toxic atmosphere, and relentless predators. I am Dr. Mira Linden of the United Earth Defense Fleet, she announced, her translator converting her words to harmonic frequencies. We received your distress call. We're here to help. Elder Kirazana stepped forward, crystalline appendages trembling. The Deathworlders. The Confederation sent you. The Confederation didn't send us, Linden replied. We came on our own. Before the Elder could respond, the perimeter sensors blared. 3 void swarm harvesting units, each the size of a small building, crested the nearby ridge, segmented limbs contorting as they processed this new development. Hostile contact, shouted Lieutenant Kamara. 3 heavies, 2 o'clock. The Special Forces team pivoted with practiced efficiency, deploying weaponry that violated 17 different Confederation treaties on ethical warfare. The Ceruleans watched in fascination and horror as the humans engaged in combat with savage precision, moving faster than seemed physically possible, coordinating with barely perceptible gestures, and demonstrating a calculated violence that seemed simultaneously primitive and transcendent. When one operator was struck by a void swarm energy discharge that would have vaporized any Confederation species, he simply injected a combat stimulant, cauterized his own wound with a plasma torch, and continued fighting with increased ferocity. Elder Kirzana's telepathic projection rippled with realization. The Confederation had kept humans quarantined not out of disdain, but fear. And now, The monsters had come to be their saviors. By the third day, the perimeter around the Xyrillian temple complex had transformed. What began as a hasty defensive position now resembled a fortress, a hybrid of human military engineering and repurposed Xyrillian crystal technology. Lieutenant Chimera supervised a group of Xyrillians who were learning to operate makeshift weapons fashioned from their own sonic resonance tools. "No, hold it like this," she demonstrated, adjusting a young Xyrillian's grip. "The recoil will shatter your appendages otherwise." The Xyrillian, named Velator, studied the human with faceted eyes that reflected too much light. "We have never needed to fight before. The Confederation protected us." "And where is the Confederation now?" asked a Marine whose arm was being treated by Dr. Linden. "They will come," Velator answered uncertainly. "In 40 cycles. We'll be dust by then," the Marine muttered, then grimaced as Linden sealed his wound with a medical polymer. "That's enough, Corporal," Linden said sharply. "We're not here to undermine their faith in the Confederation. Just stating facts, Doc." A proximity alarm blared. Lieutenant Commander Jackson's voice came through their comms. "Sector 4 breach. Multiple hostiles. New configuration." The Marines moved with practiced precision toward the north wall, where Voidswarm units were advancing with an altered tactical pattern. These weren't the Harvester units they'd encountered previously. These were combat-optimized, with redundant systems and reinforced carapaces. "They're adapting," Sergeant Rodriguez observed, adjusting his rifle's penetration settings, learning from each engagement. The first wave hit the barrier like a tsunami of metal and biotissue. For 20 brutal minutes, the humans held the line through devastating close-quarter combat. 3 Marines fell, their armor breached by appendages that had reconfigured specifically to counter human defensive technology. What happened next stunned the watching Xyrillians. The humans, instead of retreating from losses, became more efficient, more lethal. Their movements accelerated, their coordination tightened, and the fallen were dragged to safety while their comrades fought with increased ferocity, as if injury to the group enhanced rather than diminished their combat effectiveness. When the attack was finally repelled, Dr. Linden captured a partially intact Voidsworn drone for analysis. Her team connected it to an isolated quantum processor, bypassing its security protocols to access its neural network. "Fascinating," Linden muttered, studying the data. "The Voidswarm operates on a distributed intelligence model. Each drone shares experiences with the collective. So they're learning about us with every engagement," Jackson concluded, joining her in the makeshift lab. "Yes, but look at this." She highlighted a section of alien code. "They had categorized us as an evolutionary impossibility. Our responses don't conform to their predictive models." Jackson smiled grimly. "Good. Let's keep it that way." Their conversation was interrupted by a priority transmission from the Swift Justice, still engaging Voidswarm vessels in orbit. "Commander, we've intercepted a Confederation diplomatic transmission," reported Communications Officer Puddle. "They're ordering all non-Confederation forces to withdraw immediately from Elysium Mine. They claim our unauthorized military action is exacerbating the situation, and that they're initiating diplomatic protocols with the Voidswarm Collective." Jackson's expression hardened. "Patch me through to Admiral Vega." The Admiral's face appeared on the screen, the Indomitable's bridge visible behind her. "Report, Commander." "Admiral, the Confederation is attempting to negotiate with an enemy that doesn't recognize the concept. The Voidswarm isn't here for territory or resources. It's consuming the Xyrillians themselves. There's nothing to negotiate." Vega nodded. "Agreed. The main fleet will arrive in 14 hours. Hold your position, Commander. The Confederation's diplomacy has failed these people. We will not." As the transmission ended, Jackson turned to find Elder Curzano watching him, its crystalline form refracting light in patterns that somehow conveyed both fear and hope. "Your Admiral defies the Confederation to protect us. Why?" Jackson considered the question. "Because on Earth, we have a saying. The only thing necessary for evil to triumph is for good people to do nothing. And you consider yourselves good? The elder asked. No, Jackson replied, checking his weapon as proximity alarms blared again. But we refuse to do nothing. The Confederation observation vessel Harmonious Discourse maintained its position at the edge of the Elysium system, monitoring the conflict from a safe distance. Captain Zev Lorith, a veteran diplomat from a species that communicated primarily through bioluminescence, watched the tactical display with growing disbelief. They cannot be serious, he pulsed, skin flashing patterns of alarm as new contacts appeared at the system's edge. The human fleet had arrived. Not a cautious, measured deployment as Confederation doctrine dictated, but an aggressive formation that cut through space like a blade. 5 heavy cruisers, 12 destroyers, and numerous support vessels accelerated directly toward the void's warm concentration, weapons systems hot and shields at maximum. Record everything. Zev Lorith ordered his crew. The Council will need to see this. Aboard the UEDS Indomitable, Admiral Vega stood on the bridge, cybernetic implants processing tactical data at speeds impossible for unaugmented humans. All ships, combat formation Delta, she commanded. Cruisers resolute and defiant. Establish fire superiority in sectors 2 and 4. Destroyer group, prepare for close engagement maneuvers. Target priority is Void's Warm command vessels. The human fleet executed maneuvers that the watching Confederation observers considered suicidal. Deliberate exposure to enemy fire to create targeting opportunities, sacrificing shields to optimize weapons output, and velocity calculations that pushed structural integrity to theoretical limits. On the Harmonious Discourse, Science Officer Telvazer's skin pulsed with fascination. Their biology makes this possible, she noted. Their reinforced skeletal structures can withstand key forces that would liquefy our internal organs, and their neural processing speed under acute stress. It's as if they evolved specifically for warfare. A terrifying thought, Captain Zev Lorith replied. On the planet's surface, Dr. Linden worked frantically in the makeshift lab, analyzing tissue samples from the captured Voidsworn drone, while the Special Forces team defended against increasingly coordinated attacks. Commander Jackson, she called through the comm. I found something. The Voidsworn units maintain quantum entanglement with their command nodes. If we could identify the specific frequency signature, we could disrupt their entire neural network, Jackson finished. Can you isolate it? I need access to more processing power than we have here, and I need a larger tissue sample, preferably from a command-level entity. Jackson's reply was interrupted by a deafening impact as a Voidsworn breacher unit crashed through the temple's outer wall. The massive construct, 3 times larger than previous units, unfolded segmented limbs tipped with energy weapons that had been reconfigured after each previous encounter. Fall back to secondary positions, Jackson ordered as his team engaged the breacher with everything they had. Among the terrified Zerillians, a young female named Sile Veri watched a human Marine take a direct hit that severed his arm at the shoulder. Instead of collapsing, the Marine injected himself with combat stimulants, cauterized the wound with his own sidearm, and continued fighting one-handed with undiminished ferocity. In that moment, something changed in Sile Veri. She lifted a makeshift weapon and moved to join the defense. In orbit, Admiral Vega received Linden's transmission about the neural network vulnerability. Lieutenant Kim, prepare Raven units for deployment, she ordered. The tactical officer hesitated briefly. Admiral, Confederation protocols explicitly prohibit autonomous combat drones. They classify RAVENs as forbidden technology. Vega's cybernetic eyes narrowed. The Confederation isn't here, Lieutenant. Deploy the RAVENs. Throughout the fleet, launch bays open to release thousands of sleek, obsidian drones, each powered by a limited AI operating on distributed quantum processors. The swarm of artificial predators descended toward Elysium 9, targeting Voidsworn command signatures with hunting algorithms derived from Earth's apex predators. On the asterisk, harmonious discourse asterisk, Captain Zevlorith watched in horror. They've released autonomous weapons. He pulsed, skin flashing warning patterns. Every prohibition in the Galactic Compact, broken in a single moment. Yet even as he recorded this violation, he couldn't deny the evidence before him. The human fleet was winning. The battle for Elysium 9 reached its crescendo as Raven units engaged Voidsworm forces in both orbit and atmosphere. The autonomous combat drones, each operating with the calculated precision of Earth's most lethal predators, systematically targeted command nodes identified by Dr. London's research. The disruption is working. Communications Officer Puddle reported on the Swift Justice. Voidsworm coordination is degrading by 22% across all sectors. Lieutenant Commander Jackson nodded grimly, applying a sealing agent to a gash across his face. Not fast enough. We've lost the eastern perimeter. On the tactical display, Voidsworm units continued their relentless advance toward the central temple where most Xyrillians had gathered. Despite devastating losses, the collective adapted with each engagement, rerouting command functions and altering attack patterns. New contact, Tactical Officer Zhao announced suddenly. Confederation diplomatic vessel approaching at high velocity. Jackson swore under his breath. Patch me through to Admiral Vega. Before the connection could establish, the temple's main chamber illuminated with a holographic projection. A tall, willowy figure appeared, High Arbiter Zolteth of the Confederation Council, his elongated features arranged in an expression of stern authority. This is High Arbiter Zolteth addressing all forces in the Elysium system. By authority of the Galactic Confederation Council, I order an immediate cessation of hostilities. The humans exchanged incredulous glances as the Arbiter continued. The Deathworlder intervention is unsanctioned and has escalated what could have been resolved through established diplomatic channels. All human forces are to withdraw immediately. Admiral Vega's face appeared on a separate channel. Commander Jackson, maintain your position. The Arbiter's ship is being escorted by a Confederation ceremonial fleet with minimal combat capability. They have no concept of the threat they're facing. As if to underscore her point, the tactical display showed multiple Voidsworm vessels altering course, targeting the approaching Confederation diplomatic convoy. Admiral, Jackson reported, the Voidsworm is moving to engage the Arbiter's ship. They'll be torn apart. Vega's expression hardened. Cruisers asterisk, Dauntless asterisk, asterisk Sovereign asterisk, and asterisk Intrepid asterisk. Alter course to intercept. Priority is protection of Confederation vessels. Admiral, that will expose our flank toe. I'm aware, Commander. Execute. On the harmonious discourse, Captain Zevlorith watched in disbelief as 3 human heavy cruisers broke formation, placing themselves between the approaching diplomatic convoy and the redirecting Voidsworm fleet. They're sacrificing tactical advantage to protect the Arbiter, he pulsed, skin flickering with confusion. This contradicts all behavioral predictions for Deathworld species. The Voidsworm struck with concentrated fury. The human cruisers absorbed devastating firepower meant for the defenseless diplomatic vessels. The Sovereign's shields failed first, its hull buckling under repeated impacts. The asterisk Dauntless asterisk maneuvered to cover the stricken vessel, taking catastrophic damage in the process. High Arbiter Zolteth watched from his vessel as human ships deliberately absorbed attacks meant for him, ships carrying thousands of the creatures he'd come to reprimand. Admiral Vega, he transmitted, voice wavering slightly. Your vessels are being destroyed. With respect, Arbiter, Vega replied. That's what shields are for. In the momentary confusion, Vega executed the second phase of her plan. The Indomitable launched a specialized assault shuttle carrying a strike team led by the Admiral herself. Using the chaos of battle as cover, the shuttle slipped through Voidsworm defenses toward their command ship, an enormous structure at the heart of their fleet. Inside the Xyrillian temple, Dr. Linden looked up from her analysis of Voidsworm tissue samples. Commander, I've isolated the primary neural frequency. if we could deliver a quantum disruptor directly to their central processor. Jackson's gaze fell on the tactical display, tracking Vega's shuttle. The Admiral's already on it. Elder Kirazana approached, crystalline appendages trembling with a mixture of fear and dawning understanding. Your Admiral risks herself personally. Why not send subordinates? Because, Jackson replied, checking his weapons as proximity alarms blared yet again. We never ask our people to take risks we wouldn't take ourselves. The Elder's faceted eyes reflected the holographic display showing Vega's shuttle disappearing into the massive Voidswarm command ship, a concept of leadership utterly foreign to Confederation hierarchy. Inside the Voidswarm command ship, Admiral Vega led her strike team through twisting biomechanical corridors that seemed to pulse with malevolent awareness. Each team member carried quantum disruptors tuned to the frequency Dr. Linden had identified. Neural node ahead, reported Lieutenant Reyes, scanning through walls with advanced imaging technology. Concentrated activity consistent with a command cluster. Vega nodded. Set charges here, here, and here. She indicated key junctions. Maximum yield. As her team worked with practiced efficiency, a wall section suddenly liquefied, disgorging dozens of combat units, unlike any they'd encountered before, hybridized amalgamations that incorporated characteristics from previously fallen Voidswarm drones. The strike team engaged immediately, their enhanced reflexes and combat implants barely sufficient against this new threat. They're still adapting, Vega realized, firing her pulse rifle one-handed while setting a disruptor with the other. But slower now, less coordinated. On the bridge of the harmonious discourse, Captain Zevlorith had made an unprecedented decision. He was transmitting unfiltered battle footage directly to the Confederation Council, bypassing standard protocols requiring editorial review. Across thousands of worlds, species who had only heard sanitized accounts of conflict watched in stunned silence as humans fought with incomprehensible determination. The Deathworlders are inside the Voidswarm command structure, he reported, skin pulsing rapid information patterns. They're attempting to destabilize the neural network from within. High Arbiter Zolteth, now safely aboard the harmonious discourse, watched the tactical display with growing comprehension. They knew the diplomatic approach would fail, he said softly. They understood the Voidswarm better than we did, despite our centuries of observation. On the planet's surface, the tide was turning. The Raven units had established air superiority, systematically eliminating Voidswarm aerial threats. Commander Jackson's forces, reinforced by Marines deployed from the main fleet, had stabilized the defensive perimeter around the temple complex. More surprisingly, increasing numbers of Xyrillians had taken up makeshift weapons, fighting alongside the humans with desperate courage that contradicted everything the Confederation believed about their pacifistic nature. They're learning from us, Sergeant Rodriguez observed, watching a group of Xyrillians coordinate a flanking maneuver against a Voidswarm breacher, adapting our tactics. We're learning from them too, Dr. Linden replied, adjusting the resonance frequency on a sonic weapon of Xyrillian design. Their crystalline technology interfaces with the Voidswarm's neural network in ways our systems can't. Young Silveri, now leading the Xyrillian defense team, approached them with urgent news. The Elder Council has accessed ancient records, she said, her translator struggling with her excitement. We found something. The Voidswarm has been here before, thousands of cycles ago. Our ancestors drove them back using harmonic disruption across multiple dimensions. Inside the Voidswarm command ship, Vega's team suffered heavy casualties, reaching the central processing node, a massive chamber where countless neural tendrils converged around a pulsating core that shifted through impossible geometries. My God, whispered Lieutenant Khalid, the team's xenobiologist. It's not a collective consciousness, it's a parasitic intelligence. Those are remnants of consumed species incorporated into its network. Suspended within the writhing mass were fragments of countless civilizations, biological components repurposed into the hive mind. The implications were horrifying. The Voidswarm didn't just consume resources, It absorbed the very essence of the species it encountered. "Set all charges," Vega ordered, her voice steadied despite the revelation. "Synchronize detonation with the fleet's quantum cascade." As the team planted the final disruptors, a massive tendril whipped through the chamber, impaling Vega through her torso. Blood streaming from her wound, she finished programming the detonation sequence while her remaining team members fought desperately to extract her. "Admiral, we need to evacuate now," Khalid urged, supporting her failing body. "Not until everyone else is clear," Vega gasped, her cybernetic systems working overtime to compensate for catastrophic injury. "Get the team out." "That's an order." Aboard the Harmonious Discourse Captain Zev Lorith watched the Admiral's life signs faltering, her vitals transmitted through her combat suit. His skin pulsed a pattern ancient to his species, one not used for 10,000 years. Respect for a warrior's final stand. The quantum disruptors detonated in perfect synchronization, sending cascading shockwaves through the Void's warm neural network. Throughout the system, drone units faltered, their coordinated movements dissolving into chaos. On the flagship Indomitable Operations Officer Hernandez monitored the strike team's extraction. "Admiral Vega's shuttle is clear of the command ship," she reported. "Medical teams standing by in the hangar bay." The bridge crew allowed themselves a moment of hope before Tactical Officer Kim's console erupted with alerts. Energy spike in the Void's warm flagship. Unprecedented levels. They're reconfiguring. The massive command ship began to change. Its segmented sections were forming into a configuration that sent chills through even the most hardened veterans. The surrounding Void's warm vessels merged with it, creating a weapon of terrifying proportions. "Analysis," demanded Captain Rivera, who had taken command while Vega was groundside. "It's a planet killer," Kim replied, voice steady despite the implications. "They're channeling all remaining energy into a single gravitational lance. Target is Elysium 9. On the Harmonious Discourse Captain Zevlorith's skin paled to ashen gray. "Evacuation is impossible," he pulsed to his crew. "There are still over 700,000 Ceruleans on the surface." High Arbiter Zolteth watched in horror as the Void's warm weapon oriented toward the planet. "Can nothing be done?" Captain Rivera's voice came through on all channels, human and Confederation alike. "All Earth vessels form Aegis formation. Position between the weapon and Elysium 9. Zevlorith's translator faltered, unable to process the command. "They cannot mean to." The human fleet moved with synchronized precision, every remaining ship positioning itself in the weapon's path. The Indomitable took point position, shields reconfigured to maximum forward protection. The Void's warm weapon discharge, a concentrated beam of such destructive force that space itself seemed to warp around it. It struck the human fleet head-on. Ships vanished in blinding flashes of light. Hulls designed to withstand the most extreme combat conditions disintegrated. The Dauntless and Sovereign, already damaged from protecting the Confederation vessels, were among the first to go. Yet the fleet held position, each ship sacrificing itself to absorb energy that would have shattered the planet below. On Elysium 9's surface, humans and Ceruleans alike looked up to see the sky ignite. What appeared as a brief nova to the planet's inhabitants represented thousands of human lives extinguished in an instant of sacrifice. The Indomitable, severely damaged but still operational, led the remaining vessels in a final assault. With Admiral Vega back on the bridge, her wounds stabilized but critical, they executed a maneuver that concentrated all remaining firepower on the now vulnerable core of the reconstructed Void's warm weapon. "Fire everything," Vega ordered, her voice weak but resolute. The combined barrage struck with pinpoint precision, setting off a chain reaction that consumed the Void's warm flagship from within. The collective that had devoured countless civilizations across the galaxy finally knew extinction itself. 6 months later, the Great Hall of Unity on Earth hosted representatives from across the Confederation. The ceremony marked humanity's formal acceptance as full members of the galactic community, not as subordinates, but as equals. Admiral Vega, still recovering from wounds that would have killed most species, stood with quiet dignity as High Arbiter Zolteth presented her with the Stellar Guardian emblem, a symbol unused for 50,000 years. In our fear of your strength, we failed to see your capacity for sacrifice, the Arbiter stated, his words transmitted to every world in Confederation space. We saw your evolution on a death world as something to contain. We now understand it forged exactly what the galaxy needs to face the darkness between stars. Captain Thrixol, whose career-ending decision to contact Earth had been unanimously pardoned, approached the podium. The former pariah was now hailed as visionary across Confederation space. The humans have a concept, he told the assembled dignitaries, of the right being in the right place at the right time. Perhaps this is why a species evolved on a world that should have killed them, because the universe needed creatures tempered by adversity to defend life itself. As the ceremony concluded, Admiral Vega looked out at the gathered representatives of hundreds of peaceful worlds now under humanity's protection. For the first time, the Deathworlders had found their true purpose among the stars. Not as conquerors, but as guardians.